Up next, we have Augusta Imperatore begging the question, why are you unhappy?
Aristotle once said, happiness is the meaning and purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. So if happiness really is the greater purpose of life, as the Greek philosopher said, why are people unhappy? Happy. We must hear that word 100 times a week. Even our Declaration of Independence grants us the unalienable right to the pursuit of happiness. But do we ever really stop and think about what that word actually means? Hi, I'm Augusta Imperatore, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about why people are unhappy. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines happiness as feeling pleasure and enjoyment because of your life, situation, etc., or pleased or glad about a particular situation, event, etc. From these definitions, we can conclude from the recurrence of the word that when one is happy, it is tied to a situation. A situation in this case refers to the everyday life one leads. The term encompasses the basic actions like eating, sleeping, going to work or school, and general living. So what about these situations has the power to make or break your happiness? And how can people who find themselves unhappy in their life don't make a change? Back to that daunting question, why are people unhappy? In my research, I found that before I could answer this accurately, I needed to explore two sub-questions. The first being, why don't people do what makes them happy? I came across an article in the Huffington Post titled, 7 Reasons We Don't Pursue Our Passions. This article seemed perfect because what better thing to keep us happy than our passions? Or, more fittingly, the dream of our passions. Because as the article states, there are 7 reasons we will never get to live our passion if we keep listening to the following. Number 1, the story we tell ourselves. I can't because A through Z. Number 2, that pesky day job. Everyone needs a way to make money, and most find themselves working a job they tolerate to bring home the check, but the thought of quitting may seem out of reach. Number 3, not knowing what it is yet. Maybe you have an idea of your passion, but nothing concrete that you can really cling to. Number 4, passion posse. This is a big one. If you don't surround yourself with the right support and positivity, achieving your dream will never be possible. Number 5, fear of failure, another huge factor. The thought of failing can be intimidating because obviously no one wants to fail, it's embarrassing. Number 6, getting tripped up in the vastness of the vision. Which brings us to reason number 7, not taking that first step. After all, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. The second question I analyzed is, why do people allow themselves to be unhappy? And I don't just mean being temporarily unhappy about losing your shirt or getting a bad grade. I mean really letting yourself be, for long periods of time, or constantly, unhappy. To answer this question, I found some reasons on psychoact.org and incorporated them with some of my own philosophies. So let me ask you this. By a show of hands, how many people want to be this happy? Okay, so that was everyone. So if we all want to be this happy, how come people are allowing themselves to be sad? How can happiness, a word that has such positive connotations, be such a scary thought to achieve? Well, deciding to be happy can do lots of things, like disrupt our sense of identity, for example. A negative self-image can start to feel familiar and safe, and it can be scary at first to paint yourself in a positive light. Humor the cliche, but just for a minute, imagine the path to happiness as a road. Defenses are emotional barriers we build to protect us from whatever hurt us in the past or is hurting us now. These are like those big trucks you're stuck behind on the highway. You just have to put the pedal to the metal and get past them, just like how you need to get past those defenses in order to be happy again. It can be hard to do though, because it may start feelings of guilt. When you finally move on from sadness, it can feel like you're surpassing people from your past that hurt you, which can force us to face even more pain and having to relive those unhappier times. But when trying to overcome your defenses, just remember, it's scary to pass that cement truck on the parkway, but once it's over, you always feel relieved. So all of this research I've talked about so far relates to a very general group of people. So I decided to conduct a survey of my own to relate my talk closer to home. I sent out a 2-question anonymous survey monkey to the Oak Knoll Upper School and faculty, asking these same 2 questions I mentioned before. I got some recurring answers for not pursuing happiness, which were all in line with my original thoughts. Fear of failure, lack of money or time, afraid of the opinion and judgment of others, or something as simple as not being good at what you like, so refusing to put in the effort to get better. Some recurring answers for the source of unhappiness were school, which I realize I probably shouldn't say while at a school function, but I can't exactly disagree. Other people said things like stress and comparing yourself to others. All things I admit have made me temporarily unhappy in my life. More than others, though, I relate to not pursuing happiness because of fear of failure and not being good at something. Over the summer, I decided I wanted to play tennis at school in fall. But as August rolled around and I realized I hadn't played once all summer, and furthermore hadn't picked up a racket in 5 years, naturally I started to second guess my decision. I loved the sport and I knew that 2 of my friends would be playing, but I didn't want to play and beat them. I was on the verge of not even trying because I didn't want to fail. But I ended up playing and it was one of the most fun seasons of my sports career. Going to practice every day made me so happy. And now I can't even bear the thought that I may have missed out on that just because I didn't want to try and fail. In these SurveyMonkey replies, there was also another side to the answers too. A lot of people said, you can't always be happy. Sometimes you need to allow yourself to be sad before you are able to find the strength and move on. Maybe as you've been listening to this talk, you've been relating it to your life or someone you know. Personally, being the Netflix fanatic that I am, I automatically related this question of happiness back to Pam, a character from The Office. In the series finale, she reflects on her life and sees how she spent so many years with the wrong man and how she never really pursued her passion for art.
I kept wanting to scream at Pam. It took me so long to do so many important things. It's just hard to accept that I spent so many years being less happy than I could have been.
Like Pam, you don't want to look back at your life years from now and realize you spent so much time allowing yourself to be unhappy, especially when you had the opportunities for a happier life right in front of you. I know to this point, this talk may have seemed a little depressing, no pun intended, but that definitely was not my purpose. On the contrary, I decided to talk about unhappiness tonight to inspire people. And I hope to do that with this final message. Why not make a change? Maybe that means finally quitting that job you hate, following that passion, or surrounding yourself with more positive people. But a change can also be in your outlook. A lot of times we have everything we need for a happy life right in front of us. A loving family, shelter, education, our health. But because there are people out there with nicer clothes, a bigger house, a fancier education, we choose to be unhappy with our own lives. That is the most important thing to change, and what I believe is the answer to my daunting question. When I first thought of this topic, I wasn't sure I would even find an answer, and I hadn't really until my final stages of writing. As I was wrapping up and thinking back on all I had said, I realized that happiness lies in your outlook. There's always going to be people that have more than you, there's always going to be stress. But if we are able to view these things with a positive attitude, happiness will be much more attainable. Though your situation obviously has the power to affect your happiness, don't let it have the ability to decide on unhappiness for you. If you are unhappy, make a change. It may seem scary, but that does not mean that it's unachievable. I hope that when you are ready to take those steps towards happiness, you remember this talk and think of how you don't always have to be happy, but you don't always have to be sad either. After all, as Benjamin Franklin once said, the Constitution only guarantees you the right to pursue happiness. You have to go out and catch it yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Augusta.